Hello, my health freedom loving friends. Misty Karlfeld here with Health Freedom Idaho, and I'm here with Ryan, and we're going to talk about some of the technology stuff that's going on today, and what he knows, what he can share with you, and how you can help protect your family, and what we need to be doing on the city level to make a change. So let's talk about some of those things. You did a great job at We the People, by the way.
Thank you.
You did a really great job.
Thank you. I present the information and the facts, and then it just turned into a question and answers.
Well, yeah, because people want to know. I sent this to my daughter, who told me that she learned at school that that Wi-Fi and 5G are perfectly safe. So I was like, oh, let me just send you this video with my friend Ryan talking at We the People. Then you can learn something about that. So I really appreciate what you had to say. So fill people in on why this is important to you and how you kind of came around to doing what you do, why this is an action of yours.
Okay. So I worked for the phone company for a really long time, 16 years. Is a decent amount of time to gather a little bit of a lot. And I had many coworkers pass from either brain or lymphatic or thyroid cancer. So at the time, my family was struggling with autoimmune disorders. Lyme disease is in my family's home. And I went down this rabbit hole. I jumped willingly head first, and I just kept going. What I found was we are still working off of safety standards set into place by the FCC and the FDA in 1996. So we went from just the big, huge 1-pound Motorola Nokia phones to 2G to 3G, and then between 3G and 4G is when you're able to start streaming live video to your phone. That's when my coworkers started to pop. Now we're getting ready to roll into 5G, and FCC has still not done a single evaluation of whether or not this is going to be safe biologically for your person as well as plant life. There's tons of stories out there about problems with birds and their migration. I mean, it's really interesting when you go down this rabbit hole how there is no studies here in America. Meanwhile, other continents are just pumping them out for years and years and years.
And what are they finding?
They're finding that it's causing cellular degradation. It's causing us to have free radical damage entering our cells, and it's causing us to age quicker. And it's also taking whatever our bodies might be working on, whether it's something as, I was going to say simple, but that's not simple, something like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. And like I said, in my family, it's Lyme disease. When you take the focus of your body working on those issues and you focus on these heavy vibrations that are coming off of all of these frequencies of our much beloved devices, now you have your body not being able to do everything it needs to be working on, to work on everything it needs to be working on. It's literally taking all of its focus off your regular body functions and now focusing on this energy, these vibrations, all the way down to your cellular level.
That doesn't sound good. And then you were also talking, before we started, you were talking about where you're actually supposed to be holding your phone according to the safety studies. And I'm just curious, who actually holds their phone like this?
Yeah, so when you buy your cell phone, I left it back there somewhere, but you're supposed to hold it at a 45-degree angle, and you're supposed to hold it on average about a ½ inch to an inch, depending on who your manufacturer is, from your head. So that's been concluded by the FCC, and they do what's called a SAR study, a specific absorption rate study. And they only test sorry, I always giggle every time I talk about it. They only test the phone for 6 minutes on a hollow head, and they just fill it with water, salt, and sugar. And if the temperature inside the head does not raise more than 2 degrees, they deem that device safe. So
that's it?
That's it. Have a hollow head, no ear canal straight into the brain. Don't use your phone more than 6 minutes a day.
And hold it out here.
Hold it out here. So you can barely hear now.
And apparently that's safe according to this one study.
That is what the FCC is deeming.
Ugh.
How is this is being deemed safe by the FCC?
Yeah, that doesn't feel safe.
No.
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 So tell me how, the other questions that I'm seeing here is how is 5G, how does that differ from what we're already using now? Is it just one step up or is it something extra?
So currently the cell towers that are in place, they have a longer throw. So what we're going to do when we go to 5G is we're going to go to what's called a millimeter wave, and the throw is going to be really short. So they want to place them right in front of your house on a light post. They want to place them on existing cell structures, and they want them every 200 to 500 feet. I've heard varying footages, but the bottom line is they want to run them down your street. We still are going back to the same concept that there is no biological studies being done here, and the only entity that has a meter that can register these frequencies is the military.
So your meter that I've seen you use, it won't register the 5G.
There is no meter on the market.
Wow.
0 meters on the market, sorry.
So how would we even know how to mitigate what's coming at us if we can't even register it?
Well, this is the challenge that we're running into, because there are other countries that are saying no, because there are no biological studies. We don't know how to mitigate the safe levels. So that's the interesting part. So they're just going to roll it out here and say, well, we'll see how it works, see what happens.
And unfortunately, I've heard that our president has said that he wants to speed up the rollout of 5G.
He wants
heard
to
him say that.
He wants to beat other countries to the punch.
Right. And as a businessman, I guess that makes sense. But is he considering the health effects? But I learned we can't even argue the health effects. If we're going to the city council meeting or trying to explain what's going on, we can't actually talk about health effects. Why is that?
I disagree with that statement.
Do you?
I do.
Tell me why.
I disagree with that statement because under your First Amendment rights, as long as you're not bringing hate speech or anything that is causing anybody else around you some sort of pain, you're allowed to speak freely.
Oh, that's right. I mean, he's right about that.
Yeah. So the FCC is basically telling us we're not allowed to, I'm sorry, not the FCC. Most of the cities are saying because of the FCC, you're not allowed to argue health concerns. But you're definitely allowed to argue health concerns if you go to your city council meetings when they're talking about cell tower placement.
Do it.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Okay, so let's see. What else have other people asked us? Okay, this one's from Wendy Renee Berry. Can you ask him how to get them as far away from schools as possible? It looks like there's one right next to a school. And she wants to keep her kids safe. That is the overwhelming, the question from everybody. How do we keep our kids safe? What do you suggest? I know there's no simple answer. It's kind of like when I talk about CPS, there's not always a cut and dry answer. But what would you suggest?
If they're talking about a new cell tower placement, they're going to have a town hall meeting and they're going to explain what they're bringing in, where they're placing it. If you're talking about a cell tower that's already there and your children are going to the school, that's what I specialize in. I specialize in harmonizing these frequencies because we have to learn to coexist with them. We can push them off as much as possible, which we should, but I don't believe that we can fully run from it until we can change the law of the land, which is the FCC and the FDA. The FDA are the ones that are saying these are the standards. You just have to take it, which I don't agree with that either, because 1996 is a long time ago, and we have to do some sort of safety evaluation of these structures.
Right. Okay, so this one's from Kathy. Where or can you give us a short explanation to explain 5G to non-techie people to help them understand?
Okay. So
if you're giving your elevator speech to someone who doesn't know, what would be an impactful, at least to get them thinking, right? At least to get them going on their own, right? We're not going to convince them in the first 2 minutes, but something to think about.
So the average modem or router in your house that's giving you your Wi-Fi, your cell phones, they're going to be operating somewhere in the megahertz range. Like your cell phone's going to be somewhere between 900 and 700 megahertz. What these frequencies from 5G are going to be, they're going to be 20 gigahertz. So that's why there is no meter that can measure these frequencies right now, because these frequencies were owned by the military before they were blessed over to the cell phone companies. And an interesting side note on that is Senator Blumenthal threw a lot of the cell phone companies under the bus last December for not doing any biological studies, because they said, well, the FCC said it was safe. I was like, well, where are your studies? And they said, we don't have any. And then it just went really quiet in the room for a moment.
Wow. This is kind of sounding like another product that a lot of people make money on.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Okay, so I don't know what this one means. Candace is ask about Gwen Towers. Capital GWEN. Do you know anything about this? Gwen Towers? I don't either.
No, Candace, I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Well, we're going to have to look around. Greg is asking what brand of battery power saw is best suited to cut metal. What?
But he also said he likes DeWalt, right?
Well, that was somebody else that mentioned that they used DeWalt. So somehow this is happening on our thread about 5G.
Greg, I prefer Milwaukee.
Okay, that looks like those questions. Okay, so tell me, I've been seeing things about shirts or hats or things that people can maybe put on their kids. What do you think about that?
I think that they're great.
Okay.
They are a shielding device. So Dr. Martin Pall, who's the one who discovered in 2013 what this is doing to us at a cellular level, he wears the shirt that covers basically his torso, all the vital organs, and it's basically a shirt woven with either copper or some sort of other material, creating kind of a Faraday cage approach to shielding that area of the body. So the tissues are not being heated, because that's basically
that's how they're measuring it, by the heat.
Yeah. So I've done thermography tests, and we are showing that the cell phone is heating the tissue at the brain and the lymphatic area.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so another question I saw is if they're going to be putting up if you hear that they're discussing at a city level that they're going to be putting up a tower, have you seen evidence that we can get that stopped? Can we stop that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But the actual citizens of the community need to go to that meeting. It's going to be a town hall. So if they're placing a new tower, they have to notify the public, at least here in Idaho.
Even if they're adding it to already existing poles, they still have to? No. Okay, so this is their loophole. This is how they get around really notifying or even asking permission from the people. Because wasn't it the meeting that we were at where they passed it, that they could just add it to existing structures?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you have a light post in front of your house, or if you have an existing telephone pole, or if the phone companies want to rent space from, say, Idaho Power, they don't have to notify the public for that. They can literally just go out, pay their encroachment fee for when they're working in the right-of-way for the city, or even on private property, there's an encroachment space as well. They have I don't know what the footage is here, but in a lot of other states, it's 6 feet. So they can block a road and then do their work for about $500.
Wow.
And they don't have to notify the public when they do that.
And was that approved on a city level? Like each city has approved that they can add it to the existing structures?
It's usually based on a county unless the city is non-incorporated with the county.
Okay. So I would say we need to find that out, because let's get that reversed. Where they do have to ask permission, that they can't just put it on any structure. And we know that this is going up already in Meridian.
Yeah, there's 77 towers that are either already existing or have a planned location. 77.
So when do they turn them on? Like, do they turn them on as they're installing them and they're up and running? Or do they flip a switch after they're all installed?
So they're going to be working off 4G technology
Okay.
until you see them every 200 to 500 feet.
Oh, I
When you
see.
see them down the street 200 to 500 feet, then that's 5G live. So in San Diego County, it's live.
Oh.
Because they have it every 180 to about 250 feet.
Okay, so they're going up. They're not necessarily on. There's a plan. So in reality, we could get busy and stop this.
Yep, agreed. But you have to be active in your
And you,
city.
in your city, in your county, and you have to work hard and work diligently. Because I know there's other counties that have gotten this out of their county, but that was because it sounded like they just worked like crazy. They worked hard.
Yeah, and in Connecticut and Maryland, they're halting 5G. They're
Well, that's
saying
cool.
absolutely not. And then the funny thing is, in the state of California, you got Sacramento, who's the state capital, approving laws, and then you got San Francisco, and they're warring at each other because Sacramento is approving it, and San Francisco is saying no
Oh, wow.
until they do more studies.
Okay. So we need to get busy. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. We've got to get busy in our cities and our counties. Those polls are going up, and without our consent, with no testing, no informed consent, we don't know what that's doing to our bodies. So, and our children who are at school surrounded by all this tech, and we don't know how it's affecting them. There isn't enough studies. So we just need to get active. Get it active in your city and your county and put a stop to it. Did I hear right that Emmett has where you can't have 5G in Emmett?
I have heard that. I have not researched it yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it for myself,
Yeah.
but I've heard it from a few good sources now.
I've heard it several times too.
And I think that's why some of the people who are moving into California are looking into Emmett.
It's true because some of the studies that are coming, look up the bioinitiative.org. The bioinitiative.org has, it used to be 4,000 studies, it's probably more than that now, but there are so many studies saying that these frequencies are affecting our wildlife as well. So bird migration. So the reason why Emmett doesn't want it, which is what I heard, is because they still have a lot of ranchers out there.
Oh.
And these frequencies are affecting the production of, if they have cattle,
Sure.
milk. And then also they're having a lot more stillbirths from their cattle.
No kidding.
Yeah. So they don't want that on their property.
I wonder if we could draw a conclusion that maybe it would affect humans in a similar way.
I would think so.
And that maybe we should also, I really appreciate protecting our cattle. That's our sustenance. But I think we should also be protecting humans and our children in that same fashion. So Mindy said that she called the mayor's office and they couldn't tell me where they are. Do you mean where they're installing them, Mindy? I'm not exactly sure. If it's where they're installing them, how do we find out where they're being installed? So we can see if it'll affect our direct neighborhood in the short term. Do you know?
I have the master list.
Okay.
I can get it. I actually gave the list to Julie.
Julie has everything.
Yeah, I gave a master list, but I have it in my email, and I can definitely repost that. There's 77 locations in the county of Ada. I think we were talking about Meridian, but it's actually the county.
Okay, the county.
And I
of Ada.
have all of the cross streets where they're going to go.
If Julie has it, I would imagine she'll be putting it on healthfreedomidaho.org's website. And you can also go to Idahoans for Safe Technology. There's a page and there's a group for Idahoans for Safe Technology. And they're working really hard and they're putting calls to action about what you can do. But I think the key is you've got to get active in your city and your county. Is there anything else? Anything else we need to share with people? I mean, as far as, protecting your kids, I mean, one of the things that I do in my household, which I think everybody should do, is turn off your Wi-Fi at night. It doesn't hurt anything, right? It only helps to mitigate, lower that amount in your home. I turn our Wi-Fi at night, and we also all turn off our phones. All of our devices are off at night.
Yeah, if it's a device that's plugged into the wall, light timers, like Christmas tree, because you turn your Christmas tree off at night most of the time because you're worried about it's going to catch on fire when it gets dry. Yeah, Home Depot light timer, $6 or $7.
Okay, so it turns that off.
Yeah, just have it turn off at midnight, turn back on at 5 a.m.
Another thing that we did, we got rid of all of the plug-in alarm clocks.
Yes, because those are not shielded or grounded.
Yeah.
So they're bleeding off what we call dirty electricity.
Yeah. And our home actually was really kind of off the charts on the dirty electricity.
Yeah.
So we got rid of all of the plug-in alarm clocks. We use cute little battery alarm clocks, and that's been working out really well. Actually, I don't miss the other alarm clock. I never really used it. I didn't need it to be plugged in. I just needed the time. So that was another way. What are some other little handy tips?
Don't use LEDs.
Oh yeah.
LEDs give off dirty electricity, and there's two different types of LEDs you can find. You've got an LED that you can see the entire bulb, and then you have the threading, and then there's an LED that has a chip in it right before the threading.
Mm.
Those, in conjunction with your smart meter, they say, the government says it's better to serve the consumer, but they can actually see which room you're using most of your electricity in.
Wow.
So don't use LEDs.
Yeah.
Definitely don't use CFLs or fluorescents because they off gas. Go get yourself some incandescents.
Mm-hmm.
Good old Thomas Edison made a great bulb that worked fine for years.
Yeah, that's what we used. We got rid of all of the other light bulbs in the house as soon as we moved in. I did some research, and I've got the incandescents everywhere. They're not always easy to find, I have to say.
I have not found them anywhere. Kathy told me about 1000bulbs.com.
There you go, 1000bulbs.com.
1000bulbs, 1000 bulbs.com.
Good. Okay, good. I think those are some helpful things that if people just did those few things, it would significantly reduce the exposure in your home.
Yeah, especially if you're reading next to the side of your bed with an LED or a fluorescent. Yeah, it's energizing you. It's not relaxing you when you're trying to read a book and wind down. It's making you want to go for a jog rather than read a book and fall asleep.
That's the opposite reaction that we want. And what about getting your kids off their devices at a certain time? I heard that it affects your sleep when they're looking at those devices late, but right before they go to bed.
Yeah, these frequencies, you can shut them off, and then some of these frequencies can linger from anywhere from an hour to 2 hours after you shut them off. So if you want to do the shutting off of the device, I would recommend it an hour to 2 hours, depending on the manufacturer, before you go to bed.
Okay. All right. Well, that's super helpful information. Thank you so much. So we're going to have Kathy, who is also with Idahoans for Safe Technology, on, I think, next week. We're shooting for next Monday. So if you have any more questions, I'll put a post up probably that day or the day before, and we can add those questions to it, and we'll keep having this conversation. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Live long and prosper.